Paging the TV doctor. Paging the TV doctor. All right, everyone. There's been a shocker. Well, maybe not a shocker if you hated the show anyway, but it's a little bit shocking considering how NBC has been touting this show since forever. Ready for Love has been canceled after I think its second episode. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Grimm will take over the 10 p.m. spot starting April 30th, and it's not clear if the remaining episodes of Ready for Love will be aired. So I think it's probably safe to assume what got this show canceled. I think it was a multitude of things that came together to get this show off the air. First, and I guess this is our first diagnosis, or I guess more like an autopsy. So first, there's too much stuff happening. Like we kind of talked about this when I was saying my prognosis for the show, and I remember I said fair, and I was being very. That was a conservative answer. The real answer probably should have been that it was dead on arrival, but it seemed like it had life in it. But like I said, there's too much happening in the show. There was, like I said, there was the the bachelor type element. There was the voice type element with choosing blind auditioning people. There was the matchmaker element, like getting all this information from matchmakers left and right, and of course the Real Housewives element where you have the reunion show type thing with all the girls sitting on the couch talking about the time in the house so far, people scheming against each other. Like I think in the second episode, there's this ex-girlfriend who was, from what I saw from the commercials, uh, getting on everybody's nerves. I didn't actually get a chance to see this second episode because I had some work to do. But from what I heard from my mom and my sister, it wasn't the best episode, and my mom actually went on a huge rampage about the show, and what she said was true. It's too hard to try to find true love, and she kind of talked about this in her rant, but it's too hard to try and find true love on this type of game show because it is a game show. That's basically what it is. It's a game show, and you just want to win. That's the goal. Marriage equals winning. So that's what people want to do. They want to win, and they will try and get married so they can say that they won, and that's what ends up with people getting divorced later on. So it's just too hard, and like too many elements was making it hard enough as a show. Like I'm sure it's doubly hard to try and create moments with this bachelor, with the matchmaker saying one thing in your ear, you trying to do something else, and the bachelor guy doing something else, and all these other girls talking to you in your other ear, and all this stuff. So it's just too hard. And this is getting into what my mom was talking about. She was saying that people, well, she was turned off from the show because the women have to do all the work to get true love, even though the bachelors are the ones that are ready for love. But they get to sit back and do virtually nothing, whereas the women have to do all the legwork to fall in love. And of course, these shows try and create moments which aren't really real moments. My mom was saying that moments are supposed to happen organically, not how they have how they have these types of shows set up to where these moments are just uh, artificially produced and they aren't really real. And just the fact that the women do have to do all the work is kind of, I don't know if chauvinistic is the right word. It might be the right word. Misogynistic might be the right word too. It's just sexist, I guess. Like the women don't have to do all the work, and in a lot of advice books, relationship advice books, um, people say that the women shouldn't do any of the work because it's the man that should go out and get the woman, entice the woman to them, not the woman enticing the man to them, because then I guess I'm getting into like Steve Harvey isms, but it might lead the man to think that the woman will just be catering to the man for the rest of her life, and that's not how it should be. It should be a partnership. So, I mean, we're not going to get into any kind of relationship advice because I'm not in a relationship, even though I do have opinions about it. All that stuff just came together for the show to get cut. So, um, it's funny that NBC used basically like so much of their time and their resources to promote this show when Hannibal might be the one that they should have been promoting since it's the stronger show. Speaking of Hannibal, it dipped. According to the Hollywood Reporter, again, uh, Hannibal dipped 3/10 of a point this week, and also they rearranged their scheduling. They took out one of their episodes that was going to air this week. I'm assuming it's going to air sometime later down the road, but the episode that was going to air this week was taken out and replaced with another episode in light of the Boston Marathon bombings and the the whole siege that just took over Boston at the end of this week. What a harrowing week it's been. It's been terrible. So, I mean, I can see how I'm surprised Hannibal didn't drop further than it did because this is a show about a serial killer. And people are sensitive to any of those types of shows right now, with all the 24-hour coverage of the Boston bombings and trying to find this kid and all this stuff. So I think Hannibal is the last thing people want to see on a Thursday night. Right. So we have two shows to talk about. Two shows I'm going to give diagnoses to as to why they are doing well, or doing solidly in the case of one of them. So first, Da Vinci's Demons is airing on Stars. It's already been greenlit for a second season, and this historical fantasy, labeled as such by the press release, was created by David S. Goyer, who we know from the Batman, The Dark Knight trilogy, and produced by Adjacent Productions, and it follows the untold story of the world's greatest genius, Leonardo da Vinci, during his turbulent youth in Renaissance Florence. More than 2.14 million total viewers tune in to the opening weekend of Da Vinci's Demons, making it the highest rated premiere weekend ever for a Starz original series. And also, production of season 2 is going to begin in Wales, weird since it's set in Italy, in May 2013, with an on-air return expected on Starz in 2014. So Da Vinci's Demons stars Tom Riley as Da Vinci, Laura Haddock as Lucrezia Donati, Elliot Cohen, who plays, according to the press release, the shrewd de facto ruler of Florence, Lorenzo Medici, and Blake Ritson, who's playing Count Girolamo Riario, nephew of Pope Sixtus IV. I hope I said that name right. Alright, so what makes this show so good? How has it captured the hearts and minds of millions of viewers? Well, I think it's kind of simple. I think first of all, we have David S. Goyer, who has a fan base thanks to Batman. Everyone from that series is basically Hollywood gold now because that series has done so well that you can just say I was in Batman and you're probably gonna get a job. So and you're gonna have tons of people watching your work. So that's one factor, the Batman factor. And there's actually kind of a bit of Batman in this version of Da Vinci because we have a cave scene in the show, and it's going to be a big theme throughout the series. This whole thing about what happened in this cave when Leonardo da Vinci was a boy. So we have that, and if you know anything about Batman lore, you know that specifically from the movie, from Batman Begins, Bruce is afraid of bats at first from a moment in his childhood when I think he falls down in a cave under his family's home, and it's full of bats. And eventually that cave becomes the Bat Cave, and he eventually becomes one with his fear. So it's funny that a cave and water just like how that cave had tons of water in it. A watery cave makes its appearance once again in Da Vinci's Demons. The show is also a little bit like Sherlock, the popular BBC show starring Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman. Um, like Sherlock, and this goes for the book version of Sherlock too. Um, he takes drugs to calm his brain. He's obviously a genius. He's crass. This is more like the BBC version. This version of Leonardo da Vinci, like our new version of Sherlock, is crass and biting, um, very opinionated, isn't afraid to say what he thinks. In the case of Sherlock, he might have a type of Asperger's syndrome, like some form of Asperger's. This guy, this Leonardo, doesn't have anything like that. He's just that type of a person. He's very very in your face about stuff. As we already know Leonardo da Vinci to be, he is a free thinker. And we see that with all his drawings, all his invention sketches, the bird, the mechanical bird that he makes, um, all that kind of stuff. And he's also swashbuckling. There's a lot of swashbuckling going on in here. We see that Leonardo is ambidextrous. He can fight with both hands. He gets beaten up a lot by his own father, who is working for the Medicis. Um, it's a cool look at the 1500s. It's obviously a rather loose interpretation of the 1500s. In this show, I didn't expect to see uh, bisexuality or any other type of sexuality except the straight sexuality. Bisexuality was known back then. It wasn't known as bisexuality, but it was there. And examples of that in the show, I mean, first it starts out like that. Like we have the guy from, I forgot his name, but the guy from Downton Abbey uh, ordering a male prostitute to get out of his bed because he has to go to church to do his churchly stuff. Leonardo's digger friend, the guy who digs up the corpses, Zoroaster. Cool historical name, Zoroaster. Uh, he is. He might be bisexual. He says something that made me wonder about it. I forgot what he said, but he said something. And Da Vinci himself makes a sly remark. Failed attempts at positioning the Vatican as evil. Now, from what I saw in the show, of course we have, two factions. We have the Vatican and we have the Medici family who are trying to gain control over Florence. So what I found interesting is how the show starts off with Downton Abbey dude, um, he being, of course, showing the fact that he has sex with men, being some member of the clergy in some kind of way. He was called the Duke, but he has something to do with the church because the Vatican is uh, mad that he got killed, and they want somebody in power to rival the Medicis. So it's just interesting. So anyway, like I've been saying, sex, not just bisexuality sex, but uh, any type of sex, I guess. Murder. If you don't like seeing uh, people's throats getting slashed and like full-on nudity scenes and full-on sex scenes, then the show is not for you. But they do have a disclaimer at the beginning saying that this show is TVMA, so you know what you're getting yourself into with that kind of disclaimer. So, and there are also British accents. People love British accents, even when the story itself does not take place in Britain. That's kind of interesting. Like, I think there have been papers written about why, or at least articles written about why foreign, like stories set in foreign lands, still have British accented people. Um, I don't know why. I guess it's just Hollywood shorthand for this is not America, and so they do it. I would like to see it with Italian accents myself, but that's just me, I guess. It's got a huge overarching mystery because we have the Turk who is feeding Leonardo this information about time is circular, how you can access, I guess, any point in time, how you can figure out what happened to his mother, uh, what happened in the cave, uh, possibly how to stop the Medici's and the Vatican or whoever. Uh, we have humor because we have Leonardo's assistant, we have Zoroaster, we have all of Leonardo's mind problems, all his crazy thinking, drug use, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of fun stuff, and there are some twists. Like we got a twist at the end of this episode as to who is the mole for the Vatican. So there's a lot to like about this show. So I do kind of highly recommend it.